What if your heart or your brain or your thyroid or your liver was 20 years older than the rest of your body without you knowing it? Well, today I'll be sharing with you how your organs age at different rates and what it means for you and your risk of chronic illness and how to reverse the damage and heal your body at the cellular level using cellular medicine, biblical wisdom, and ancient healing practices. And this message is incredibly personal for me. I believe that this is a big reason why my mom developed cancer and my father-in-law passed away a year and a half ago. And I also battled a life-threatening spinal infection and almost died. And these principles are so key for that. So if you want to learn how to reverse your age, 10 years, maybe even 20 years of specific organ systems, this is the key to healing. I'm going to dive into it today. Welcome to the Dr. Josh Ack Show. You know what? 18 months ago for myself and my family, our life radically changed. My father-in-law at 60 years old died of a heart attack, and he was living with Chelsea and I and our girls. And the crazy part was he was on zero medications. He was working out consistently on a daily basis, and he had a heart attack. And this really led me into continuing to focus more and more on healing our organ age. I mean, and here's how this happens. There are many people out there, and men in particular, who they might look young and fit and healthy. You know, they might have the body of a 40-year-old, but they might have a heart of a 100-year-old. Did you know today you can actually test your organ age? You can do tests, blood work, and be able to see how old your hormonal system is, how old your heart is, your gut is, your liver, your pancreas, and even your cellular mitochondria, and look at the age of your organs and parts of your body, because most people, when they pass away or get sick, it's not because their whole body was sick. It's because they have one organ system in particular that's more unhealthy than the other systems. And so what I'm going to do today is really dive into some of these individual organ systems and how, if you have high blood pressure and high cholesterol and heart disease, and let's say you're 60 years old, but you have the heart of an 85-year-old, how do we reverse the age of your heart by 25 years? You can actually do it. Or maybe you have hypothyroidism and everything else lines up and feels good in your body, but this hypothyroidism, your thyroid having issues, is causing you to feel fatigued and have thinning hair and brain fog and making you feel older than you might actually be. Well, I'll go through today. How do you start to reverse the actual age of the cells in your thyroid? And so today, that's what we're going to get into, how to do that. And so much of this stemmed from my own experience of seeing my mom battle cancer and us reversing her biological age that way. My father-in-law, seeing what happened with him. And then even myself, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening infection. I was in peak health. I was squatting and deadlifting in a triathlete and playing with my daughter, throwing her up in the air in the pool. And I got this infection in my back due to a natural procedure gone wrong via stem cell. And I ended up getting an infection in my bone around my spinal cord. I was rushed to the hospital because I couldn't walk. Got an MRI, and turns out that I had an infection eating away at my bone. And I had a doctor tell me that I may never walk again, that I would likely be permanently disabled, have my spine fused. And I was sitting there and thinking, how could this all happen in such a short period of time? And that's really what led me into this field of study of healing the cell, reversing irreversible conditions. And I started doing a lot of these therapies, like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, certain types of IVs, ozone, following a diet that's very high in ellagic acid and omega-3 fatty acids and certain things that repair the cell membrane and the mitochondria. And I was able to fully heal and get back to 100%, reversing an irreversible condition. My mom reversed an irreversible condition in cancer. And I'm going to walk you through how to heal when doctors say you can't heal, and actually how to reverse your organ age today. So let's start diving into what is organ age. So So organs age at different rates. 20% of adults over the age of 50 have one or more organs aging prematurely. And this is very prematurely. I would say everyone across the board, almost, or 80% of people, have at least one organ aging faster than their other organs. And there was a study published at Stanford University. And the study found that individuals with rapidly aging organs had a 20% to a 250% increased risk of developing disease or dying in the next 15 years, depending on which organ was affected. For instance, in the study, those people that were found to have older hearts had a 250% higher risk of heart failure. And this is an example of where there's so many men that die of heart attacks in their 60s. And if we were able to do the testing early on and say, okay, what are some of these markers combined showing the organ age test of the high sensitivity CRP, some of the other things we're looking at here with mitochondrial health, okay, amino acid deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, this will tell us the age of the heart. There's also in this study, they found that if somebody had an older brain via the blood test, they had a 180% higher risk of cognitive decline or having dementia or other neurodegenerative illnesses. So in most of you realize this by now because it's a very educated group, but your chronological age is not the same as your biological age. So I'm 43 years old, about to turn 44, and so that's my chronological age. However, doing this blood work, it's showing I'm closer to 33 years old, right? So 10 years younger than my chronological age. And then we can look at that for all of your different organ systems of, hey, how old is your brain? How old is your heart? How old are your reproductive organs, like your ovaries or your testes? And actually looking at these indicators is incredibly powerful. And we all know this, right? We've seen people, RFK Jr. is an example of this to me. He is in his 70s. But he could be, he could pass off physically if you just looked at his body in certain areas like a man that was 15, 20 years younger, okay? And then you've seen people, right, that are maybe in their mid-40s. This happens a lot with smokers, by the way, or people that eat a lot of fast food. They might look 20 years older than they should be. Their face is sunken in, more wrinkles, just a number of things. They just look aged, right? So there is a difference between your biological age, which is looking at your overall health and longevity, and your chronological age there as well. And what most people want to do is you want to be able to discover what is your weakest link in terms of your organ systems, and start to focus on taking the right diet, supplements, and lifestyle practices to reverse the age of that specific organ. This is what we call personalized cellular medicine or personalized organ medicine. We are really focusing on personalizing a custom plan that then can focus on reversing the age of that organ system where you have the biggest risk factor. And this happens if, let's say you had a family member that had breast cancer, there's a way to eat a very specific diet and take the right things to reverse the age of some of these tissues, whether it's your breast tissue or your ligaments and tendons and a number of these areas of your body. There are some very specific examples we know and markers that show if an organ is aging too quickly. One of those would be fatty liver. There are hundreds of millions of people today in the United States alone that have this sort of visceral fat, this organ fat surrounding their liver. And this can also cause insulin resistance, which we know is tied to the pancreas there as well. And so those are showing we have an aged liver and aged pancreas due to this accelerated inflammation in the body. And listen, there are some general things that are going to accelerate the age of your entire body: chronic inflammation, lack of sleep, increased stress, insulin resistance, big time toxic exposure. All of these will add up on the body. But overall, for most people, we want to reverse our overall age of our body and focus on one organ system and start reversing the age of that. Many people have an aged immune system, which is why they get cancer or autoimmune disease or immunodeficiency. So we want to focus on healing those areas. Now, here's the good news. 70% of your body is new about every 7 years. Now, for some people, if we count water weight, it's actually much higher than that. But the majority of your body is new every few years. In fact, certain areas of your body are regenerating at a very fast level. Your skin is new every 28 days. Your red blood cells every 4 months. Your liver can actually heal and regenerate in just 8 weeks, or at the minimum 150 days. In fact, every year, your liver, every cell in your liver is completely new and different. Your gut lining heals about every 5 days. Even your heart and brain tissue and bones are regenerating and healing, at least certain zones of them, on a regular basis. So if you have, again, hypothyroidism, your thyroid can heal. It can regenerate. I have people ask me all the time who come into my virtual practice and they'll say, Dr. X, can I reverse hypothyroidism? And the answer is yes, of course you can. Your body has an incredible capacity to heal. We just have to get your thyroid and adrenals and gut, because all those areas are connected when it comes to thyroid health, liver a little bit too. But we have to get all the nutrients it needs, get rid of the toxins, and get your thyroid in an environment that can heal. I mean, think about like if you got a really bad garden. If you try and plant a tomato plant in a really bad garden, the tomatoes come out sort of unhealthy and dead. Those cells of the tomatoes, they're not fully ripe, or they get eaten away by bugs. They're just not healthy. Versus if you would go, and Chelsea and I did this year, we went and did a big home garden and grew a bunch of tomatoes and zucchini and lots of different foods. And we went and we did things like, broken down mushrooms and worm castings and really, really healthy soil. And the tomatoes were massive, absolutely massive that we were getting, and they were so delicious. And it was because we got the perfect environment of water and sunlight and soil in order for this tomato to grow. Think about your thyroid or your testes for men with low testosterone, or your liver or your pancreas in the very same way. If we get it in the right environment, with diet, with getting a lot of sleep, with the right nutrients that organ needs, it will heal, it will regenerate, because your body is constantly creating new tissue and regenerating. The problem is most of us don't have what our body needs in order to fully regenerate, so the organ is aging too quickly. And that's a big reason why we're not healing today, is sort of this ongoing toxicity, which depletes our body of nutrients and causes inflammation, and the lack of nutrients, so our organs can't function and heal like they should. So that's sort of the functional medicine view when it comes to organ age. I want to talk a little bit about the ancient view around longevity and reversing disease. And then I'm going to dive into something we call the 9 or the 12 hallmarks of aging, how to reverse those. Then I'll go through how to reverse organ age in the primary systems of your body, everything from your immune system to digestive system to hormonal system, and a whole lot more. So in ancient Asian medicine, they believed that longevity was tied to something that we would call the 3 treasures, or we also call it the Trinity of longevity. And these are words you might recognize, some from Chinese medicine or when I've talked about this on the show, but it's called Shen, Qi, and Jing, which, by the way, lines up with the Bible of body, soul, and spirit, or the Greek idea of body, mind, and spirit. The same thing that you're going to see in Ayurveda with the 3 doshas, right? So you see these sort of 3 areas of body, mind, and spirit, we'll call it. If you want to optimize your longevity, reverse organ age, you have to take care of the physical directly, the mental directly, and the spiritual directly. And there are ways of doing that might surprise you that I'll dive into. The first one here, and again, this is called the 3 treasures of longevity in Chinese medicine. And the first factor here is something we call Shen, and this is tied to your spiritual health. Now, in the Western world today, we don't think of spiritual health very often, okay? It's just not talked about. However, in the ancient East, during the time of Jesus, and really throughout the Middle East, India, and Asia, spirituality was much more recognized and discussed and lived out on a daily basis, okay? This is something, and today we've kind of replaced all of that with this sort of cold, hard facts of science, which shouldn't lessen the spiritual our awareness of things at all. But it's just the reality of where we're at today. So it's called Shen, and it's really tied to something we would call cellular intelligence. Okay, you have an intelligence in your body. I mean, even when our body dies, our spirit lives on, and so this is the spirit that actually impacts our physical health. And this is also why this is really important. I see so many people who have developed disease because they've had childhood trauma or a bad relationship with their parents or somebody who said something negative to them, and they've never there are things from the past that still bother them today. They're still living with guilt, shame. They want to make somebody proud, so they're working all the time, and they don't know why they're so driven to do certain things. This is really tied to this area of your spiritual health. You have a memory, you've had something happen in the past, and it still impacts you today. Your relationship health. This is very much tied to this, what we call cellular intelligence, or Shen. And this is how your cells receive and interpret information. The organ systems most tied to this are your brain, and then your second brain, which is your gut microbiome. And this is where it's so important to live in tune with the earth and circadian rhythms. This is all about cellular communication in your neuroendocrine system. So your brain and how that corresponds with hormone production. And so tied to your relationships, your stress levels. But all that being said, one of the greatest things that's overlooked today in longevity medicine is taking care of your spiritual health and your emotional health. Your spirit and your emotions deeply impact your physical health and the age of specific organs, especially your brain and your gut microbiome, and then your hormones after that. Now, the next thing is that impacts our longevity, according to ancient medicine, is something called qi, which we call cellular energy today. This is ATP production. This is mitochondrial function. This is your adrenal health. And so this is another area we need to focus on. Now, in the Bible, this would really be also connected to our breath. Breathing in and breathing out. And this is something the Spirit of God gives us, this sort of breath, and it's what it's the thing that you don't have to think about breathing air in and out, right? You don't have to think about digesting food either. That's what this is. That's what in Chinese medicine they'll call it qi. In the Bible, it's really more akin to the soul, but it's this thing in our body that sort of runs our body, or the mind in Greek medicine. But again, it's this thing, this sort of cellular energy it's your body's battery that's sort of running everything without you even thinking about it. It's tied to that in our mind. And then the last one here it's called Jing. This is most tied to the structure of your body, your physical body. This is connected to your stem cells, your DNA, your bone marrow, the membranes of your cell, these areas. And so if we can optimize your health physically, mentally, and spiritually, it's going to create the greatest results in reversing organ age and promoting longevity in your body. But again, what most people do today is they only look at the physical. And again, I can tell you emotional stress and emotional trauma in poor relationships, these cause an equal to or greater level of disease than diet does. Okay. And you may or may not agree with me on that, but I can tell you from working with just like tens of thousands of patients that I see, and listen, they're very, very close, but most people are sick because of a combination of poor diet and lifestyle, along with their mind and their emotions and worry, fear, anxiety, anger, trying to please other people. They're a bad relationship with their mom or dad it causes this sort of low-grade stress. That low-grade stress and cortisol causes chronic inflammation, which really contributes to the sickness and organ age of an individual. So it's so important that we focus on healing. When I look at the Bible actually has a lot of content around physical health and wellness, right? When you read the book of Leviticus, it even gets into how to detox your home of mold. Right? It talks about food laws. When you read the book of Exodus, we see Jesus talking a lot about our faith and our belief and having high character, and how this actually is great for our health. And so, Proverbs 17:22 says this: a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. You see here in terms of joy, positivity, this sort of, praise and gratitude. It is good medicine. It heals your body. It's good for the heart. But a crushed spirit, this sort of depression and living in a state of hopelessness, it dries up the bones. Drying up. Think about that picture of that. This is sort of what happens as we age and we age the body. And so the Bible dives deep into these things as well. And so it's so critical, if you are going to optimize your health, that you focus on healing physically, mentally, and spiritually. Just to give you an example of this, when I have somebody I take care of, as a breast cancer patient, we know that breast cancer is tied to overgiving, being a caretaker, overgiving of yourself and not filling yourself back up. That's the primary cause. Also, oftentimes, if it's one side of the body, it's the woman had a poor relationship with her father or male figures in her life. And of course, the other one is typically an unhealthy with the female figures in her life. Those are big drivers of breast cancer. And so we see those sort of things where there tends to be emotional trauma from the past that was never fully dealt with or healed from. And so these things are causing chronic inflammation at the cellular level in specific organ systems. And so we want to go and address those issues using things like biblical medicine and, time in praise and meditating on Bible verses and counseling and meditation and a number of these things that are very healing to our bodies today. So these are important parts. Now I want to dive back into accelerating organ age and some of the sort of the cascade that happens. Cancer, dementia, heart disease, they're coming for so many people. And it's not just because of what most people think, which is that it's bad luck or bad genetics. The truth is your daily choices are either creating health or setting the stage for disease, and your doctor is probably reading your blood work all wrong. They're missing the cellular issues behind the symptoms. I'm currently offering a simple at-home blood test that actually tests for the right things. And just as importantly, it comes with proper interpretation of the results. This new test flips the script. The future of interpreting test results is here. If you want to check it out and grab one before they're gone, just go to mybloodwork.com now. The first thing that typically throws off our overall health is an imbalance or a disruption in our circadian rhythms, which then harms our cellular communication. So when we are inside all day long, or we're going to bed late at night and we have this blue light that's sort of affecting us, when we're not living in tune with the earth, when we're not outside with our feet on the ground grounding, when we are not in nature and indoors all the time, this really disrupts our neurological system and our hormonal system. And what we'll see here is melatonin getting too low, cortisol getting too high. When those hormones, cortisol and melatonin, are out of balance, you don't sleep as well, so you don't regenerate, and you're just burning out your adrenal batteries and your cellular energy, your mitochondria, making you sick. So I would say that of all the things, the first thing that tends to make people sick is just living out of tune with nature. It's working too much, not enough vacation time, just filling your day to the point of where you have no free time at all every single day, and you can never just sort of be and relax and enjoy. These are the things that are making us sick today, and that tends to be the first thing in terms of what we call the hallmarks of aging that cause our organ systems to age too quickly. And the second thing then is microbiome dysbiosis. This is where you have too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. There's damage and imbalance there, and diet is a very big factor there. And then after that, you have these epigenetic imbalances. It could be you have MTHFR genetics or poor mold detoxification or some other genetic marker. Because of the stress, because of your gut microbiome being unhealthy, you turn on these genetic markers, which then makes you more susceptible to certain diseases. And from there, we tend to have oxidative stress. This is caused by a lot of toxin overload. This can cause mitochondrial dysfunction where our ATP just becomes depleted, so we don't have cellular energy. This is when things like hypothyroidism start kicking in, or why you're fatigued all the time, as your body's battery has been totally depleted down to almost nothing. This will cause inflammation because now your body can't heal as well. Then you have something called a autophagy, where your body can't cleanse itself properly. You then have the buildup of something called senescent cells. These are zombie cells that then leak more inflammation, and then your stem cells are exhausted, so you can't regenerate and heal. So I know I said a lot of things there, but basically I wanted to walk you through the cascade that can happen simply by you not spending enough time outside, getting too much blue light, basically not living in tune with nature the way God intended us to, can cause this whole series of things that makes us sick and makes us age too quickly. Now, I want to dive into a couple studies here and examples of why we're aging so quickly and how to start to reverse your organ age. The first here, there's a study done. It's called the ACE study. This was on childhood trauma, and it showed that childhood trauma increases the risk of chronic illness by 2 to 3-fold. That is a big, big jump, okay? So again, we know if a child had verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or just any sort of childhood trauma at all, their chance of getting autoimmune disease, cancer, any chronic illness goes up dramatically. Okay. We also see in studies loneliness, isolation, and lack of purpose are major risk factors for accelerated aging. People with purpose live 7 years longer on average, according to the Blue Zones. Unresolved stress ages your cells faster than time does. Okay, we've all seen this, like presidents, right? By the time they get out, their hair goes from, sometimes brown to gray in a short period, even 4 years. That stress really sort of accumulates and adds up on the body. Another example of us aging very, very quickly is how early girls are hitting menses and how fast boys are also hitting puberty. I mean, I believe it was about 100 years ago that girls were hitting puberty around 16 to 17 years of age, okay? Much, much later on. Today, it's around 12 or 13. So we're talking about some girls about 5 years early. Now, think about based on their age, they are, by the time that they are 16 years old, they are 5 years older physiologically than they should be. That's aging, and that's why so many girls today are also having PCOS, infertility, hypothyroidism, depression, a lot of these chronic illnesses when they get into their 20s because they've aged so quickly. And it's due to a number of things. One is anything that's going to imbalance the hormones. Watching TV all the time, not spending enough time outside, that's going to age them more quickly. All of the hormones found in our food supply. I mean, there are so many hormones in dairy and meat products. Just the amount of emotional stress that kids undergo today. Think about it. The kids used to, maybe work on a farm. In fact, the majority of people worked on farms. So they were outside and doing things that are really not taking a lot of brain power necessarily all day long. And today there's all of this stress for them to compete and be the best in certain areas in life and spending time on social media, comparing themselves to others. There are all these things cumulatively that are causing these girls to age more quickly and boys to age more quickly. But again, the hormones in our food supply are a big one. But that's just another example of why some people are aging so quickly. And then getting them on birth control in high school, that's greatly throwing off their hormones, causing them to hormonally age more quickly. And so all of these things are adding up on the body. You can take back control of your metabolism, your energy, and your hormones naturally. I've put together an in-depth, practical training to help you balance your hormones using powerful foods, herbs, and natural lifestyle strategies that actually work. If you're ready to start feeling like yourself again, go to draxhormoneclass.com or click the link in the description to begin your healing journey today. That's draxhormoneclass.com to take back your health naturally. Now, before we dive into the exact herbs and supplements and food to take to reverse the age of all your different organs, I want to mention again the spiritual aspect as being one of the primary aspects of healing, the spiritual and emotional. And I just want to walk you through some things you can start doing now. For almost all of us, we've had some sort of trauma in our past that is still impacting us today. And there are certain practices that can help you heal. I would say here are a few to start off with. Number one, spend some time journaling. And do it along with prayer. Okay, so prayer and journaling. Write down what are those things that still bother you today. Write maybe an example of, of your biggest memories from your childhood, the biggest positive and the biggest negative aspects of your childhood growing up through high school or college. Write all those things down, okay? Where do you feel shame? Where do you feel guilt? Maybe you did something wrong or someone did something wrong to you. The areas of unforgiveness, but write down shame, guilt, unforgiveness, and just pain, areas you might have some pain. And then write down, are any of those things still causing you to have today maybe fear, worry, anxiety? So write those down. And then once you bring that awareness there's really two things you can do. One is meet with a counselor, a good counselor, work through those things with them. Talk them out. Just talking them out, getting them out is so healing for so many people. And then the next thing is really giving those things to God. Asking God to heal this hole in your heart. and this area of pain, and then giving it to God and saying, hey, you know what? Your yoke is easy. Your burden's light. I'm not going to live with this stress any longer. Because it's not benefiting you. It's making you sick. It's making you ill. It's keeping you from being who God has created you to be. So I would spend, number one, in prayer, asking God for healing and asking him for his guidance in healing. Spend some time journaling and writing things down, going through a practice of forgiving others, and then building deeper connection with community of virtuous people that are purpose-driven, that want to change the world, that want to raise up great families, that want to do good work in the world. You can connect with them at church, places like that, spiritual communities. And then I would say also a Sabbath rest. This is really key to emotional and spiritual healing. Take 1 day a week and don't work. Maybe 2 days a week because you're so far behind, and don't work. And I know for a lot of us, it's like, well, we've got sports all weekend long. Then here's the thing, do your best. Go in your calendar and mark off time every week to have some you time, and time every month or so or year where you're blocking off certain vacations and just time of rest, and start saying no a lot more often. Only say yes to the great and no to even the good things. And so that's what you want to do. I think if you do some of those things, you're going to see immense spiritual and emotional healing. There's also part of, I think, healing where you can do what I call reparenting work. You have emotional trauma from your father and mother wounds that can impair your organ and immune system, or other people that were mentors in your life, could be coaches or pastors or teachers or a number of things, but going through relatives and writing down what those things are. That'll be part of the journaling exercise and focusing on really trying to heal those issues. And for some of you, that might just take a few days, and for some of you, it may take years of focusing on healing, but it's really important for that overall healing. And then incorporate good spiritual practices. I do a spiritual triathlon in the morning. I think this is a great thing to do. Spend some time in gratitude. Maybe it's 2 minutes. Spend some time reading your Bible. Maybe that's 10 minutes. So then spend a few minutes, maybe it's 2 to 5 minutes just in prayer and meditating on what that thing is that you sort of learned from what you read. So it could be 20 minutes total in the morning, something like that, or 15 minutes. And the way that can impact you positively for the rest of the day is just incredible. When you're working out, listen to the Bible on audio or a book about the book, a spiritual growth book. Do everything you can to really start the music you listen to, make it positive music. The shows you watch The Chosen and David and some of these things as well. So start filling your mind with the right things. These are all important for actually reversing organ age and helping you heal. Now, I want to get very specific about what you can do to start reversing the age of different specific organ systems. Remember what we talked about. For most people, the reason why you could die early or be sick is you have one organ or organ system that's aging faster than your other organ systems. Now, let's start off with the heart. Here are some warning signs that your heart is aging too quickly. Number one, high blood pressure. Another one, high triglycerides or high cholesterol. Here's another one, high C-reactive protein. So there's a number of biological markers, low levels of CoQ10. So you see some of these on blood tests, or again, not even on blood tests. We know high blood pressure, chest pain, fatigue, poor circulation. These are all warning signs your cardiovascular system and your heart are aging too quickly. The best foods for reversing age of your heart and cardiovascular system are foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, beets, which increase nitric oxide, berries like blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, pomegranates are incredible, and extra virgin olive oil as well. Those are some of the absolute best. From an herb and supplement standpoint, coenzyme Q10, minerals like magnesium and potassium. Hawthorn as an herb is great for lowering blood pressure and cholesterol. And then garlic and omega-3 fatty acid supplement like fish oil. And then in terms of an active lifestyle, this is actually where cardiovascular work is very, very good for the health of your heart. Daily walking, breath work, and doing some sort of cardio, could be a little bit of long distance or some interval training, can help heal and strengthen the heart. And then meditating on God's word. I love Psalms 46:10, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So really addressing the emotion of anxiety tends to be the most healing for the heart. So here's the reality. If you have a heart, your heart is aging, you have some of these symptoms or biological markers, start eating the foods I talked about every single week. take some of the supplements, do some of those lifestyle practices, and you'll start to reverse the age of your heart. Now let's talk about the brain. Here are some signs that your brain is aging too quickly. Brain fog, memory loss, insomnia, mood swings. Some of the most healing foods for your brain include walnuts, coconut. By the way, we know those are healing from an ancient standpoint because a walnut looks like your brain and a coconut looks like your head. And then, of course, the medical studies all prove MCTs and then omega-3s. These are very healing to the neurological tissue. So we know walnuts and coconut, like coconut oil, very good for the brain. Blueberries, eggs have choline, so pastured eggs. Dark chocolate, avocado. So a lot of these healthy fatty acids are great for the brain. From an herbal standpoint, ginkgo biloba is amazing. It brings blood flow to the brain. Lion's mane mushroom, magnesium threonate, and DHA omega-3 fats. Another really good thing for the brain is you need sleep. You also need lots of sunlight, and then learning new skills. Constantly learning and reading and growing is amazing for the brain. And then meditating on verses like Romans 12:2, which says, don't be conformed any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay, so taking those thoughts captive, focusing on growing where God has gifted you and learning more and adding value to others is amazing for your brain. And then the next organ system is the liver. If you're dealing with hormone imbalances like you're not converting T4 to T3 on a blood test and you have hypothyroidism, that's a liver problem. Excess estrogen for most women, that's a liver problem. If you know your body is toxic, that's a liver issue. Or if you have fatty liver issues or gallbladder issues, these are all liver issues. Big warning signs are headaches. I mentioned certain hormone imbalances, skin issues, constipation is a major sign of liver disruption. The foods that can help your liver heal are steamed cruciferous vegetables, citrus fruits like lemon and limes, beets, liver as a glandular or liver as a meat, so chicken or beef liver, green apples, lots of steamed green leafy vegetables. So a lot of the foods that are green and slightly sour, very good in healing for the liver. Some of the best herbs and supplements, dandelion, milk thistle, N-acetylcysteine, glutathione, and turmeric are some of the best for healing the liver. And then this is also for the liver where I really like doing castor oil packs topically to move lymph and bile flow, infrared saunas. And then doing things to release frustration. In fact, hitting things is very good for the liver, like playing tennis or pickleball. Also, walking or hiking in nature is very healing to the liver. And we know that Ephesians 4:31 talks about we need to let go of anger. Okay, and so just letting go, casting your cares upon him is very important for healing as well. The CDC now estimates that 1 in every 3 adults has pre-diabetes. The signs are there long before a diagnosis, things like constant fatigue, stubborn belly fat, sugar cravings, brain fog, frequent urination, and increased thirst. And these are all symptoms of insulin resistance, the root cause behind most cases of type 2 diabetes. Now, here's the good news. This condition is completely reversible with the right diet, lifestyle, and healing herbs. And if you or someone you love is struggling with blood sugar issues, head over to draxdiabetesclass.com to watch a free training on how to naturally balance your blood sugar and reverse your symptoms. That's draxdiabetesclass.com to take back control of your health today. The next up is healing the gut microbiome. If you want to heal the gut microbiome, there's very specific things you can do. And the biggest warning signs are going to be bloating, gas, IBS, food sensitivities, diarrhea, constipation, brain fog. These are all connected to the gut. And then leaky gut. Of course, there's blood work you can tell for this, for SIBO, like a lactulose breath test. You can test for occludin. You can test for zonulin. You can do what's called, my favorite of all of these, is going to be a GI map where we're going to look at the different good and bad bacteria in your gut. So a GI map is a great way for testing this. And then from a food standpoint, lots of bone broth. Lots of probiotic-rich foods like fermented foods like sauerkraut and coconut yogurt or raw organic goat's milk yogurt, prebiotic fiber from apples and pumpkin. Lots of ginger is incredibly healing for the gut, using that as well. And then from a supplement standpoint, high-dose probiotics, L-glutamine powder, slippery elm, licorice root, digestive enzymes are some of the best for a start to reverse the age of your gut microbiome. And then ways to heal the gut: mindful eating, not eating in a rush, really taking your time. Okay, this is really important for gut health. Getting on a mini rebounder or trampoline, that actually moves your gut motility, is great for that as well. And then healing wounds. Typically gut and digestive issues are caused by worry, trying to control things that are out of your control. This is where I really like the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, Matthew 6, where God says, listen, I'll take care of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field. Of course, I'm going to take care of you, right? He says, don't worry about anything. Be anxious about nothing. So meditating on these Bible verses daily is so healing to the gut microbiome. And then here's another big one: spending more time outdoors and doing things like gardening. Again, so many people growing up had agricultural jobs throughout history. Today, we aren't eating as much fresh food. We're not going to our local farmer's market. We're not having a home, even herb garden. Have a simple herb garden at home. Go to your local farmer's market. These are all great for gut health. And then let's talk about healing the kidneys as well as the adrenal glands, okay? Some symptoms here. It could be you have low back pain. This really is always tied almost to the kidneys and adrenals, so low back pain. Frequent urination. Also, this is tied to prostate health, so it's kidneys, adrenals, and prostate. It could also, so if your PSA markers are up, that's a pretty obvious one there as well. Urinary tract infections, there's another big one. So, and just adrenal fatigue, you're just exhausted all the time. So that's tied to this. There are some foods that are very good for the kidneys. These tend to be electrolyte-rich foods: celery, parsley, cranberries, cucumber, watermelon, sea salt, wild-caught fish, like fatty fish and salmon are very good. Black rice, known as forbidden rice, that's very good. Beans are good here as well. And then actually chestnuts are another food that's great. And then from a herbal standpoint, cordyceps mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, astragalus, rhodiola rosea, electrolytes. If you've got prostate issues, saw palmetto. These are all very good for the kidneys there. And then you want to focus on adequate hydration. Make sure you're getting plenty of water, fruits and vegetables, gentle movement. These are all going to be very, very good for the kidneys. And there's a great verse on this, on releasing fear. I mean, the kidneys are driven by fear. And so Psalms 56:3. But going and just looking up online, what are 10 Bible verses about fear? You know, I think about Joshua 1. My mom always had this because I was named after Joshua in the Bible. My mom would have me read that first chapter of Joshua where God is constantly saying to Joshua, be strong and courageous. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go, right? So me thinking about that day and night, I'm strong, I'm courageous. God is with me everywhere I go all the time, in every moment. And that helps release some of that fear that you can have in your life, knowing God's in control. He's for you. He's not against you. Let's head on the next organ system here, the thyroid. If you have cold hands and feet, if you're battling fatigue, weight gain has started, thinning hair, these are all warning signs, okay? Some of the most healing foods for the thyroid include seaweed, Brazil nuts because they're so high in selenium, eggs, blueberries, liver as a glandular, thyroid as a glandular. So actually getting glandulars as organs is very healing there as well. But I would say in addition to that, lots of steamed vegetables of all kinds. I mentioned rice and black rice before. It's also good for the thyroid health. Beets are very good, but a lot of soups and steamed vegetables and those sort of things are going to be very, very good. Organic meat are going to be good for the thyroid. And then in terms of nutrients in supplements, if you don't have Hashimoto's, iodine are doing up to 150 micrograms daily, selenium, 200 micrograms daily, zinc, ashwagandha, maybe my favorite herb. Another favorite that's underutilized is forskolli, amazing for healing thyroid conditions, a methylated B complex, and actually probiotics as well, all incredibly healing for thyroid tissue. And for thyroid, reducing stress, regulating your circadian rhythms, getting outside in the mornings, taking walks daily. And the other big thing is infrared light. Doing an infrared light bed or panel directly on the thyroid and on your body is incredibly healing for hypothyroidism. Infrared saunas, really powerful there as well. And with thyroid, a big part of this as well is your identity in Christ, letting go of performance issues where you're trying to people please everybody. Just focus on pleasing God, not on others. So letting go of performance and building your identity in Christ is healing. And then here's the next one, lung tissue, okay? If you have shallow breathing, you kind of get tired and out of breath a lot very easily, or you have frequent infections like cold and flu and low endurance, these are lung issues. The most healing foods tend to be white or light yellow for lungs. Pears, onions, mushrooms, cauliflower, chicken bone broth, garlic. All of those are very, very good for lung tissue. And then my favorite herbs, N-acetylcysteine, astragalus, cordyceps, echinacea, vitamin C, all very good for the lung tissue. And then here's where doing breath work is very good. You can do box breathing. You can do something called Qigong in Chinese medicine. Also doing things where you're working your cardiovascular system, like a little bit of HIIT training, 20 days a week where you're doing intervals like on a Peloton or in the pool. All of those are good, okay? And by the way, if you have joint issues, we'll do it in the pool or do it on a bicycle. Easy to do. Lungs is really tied to forgiveness, okay? Anyone you've been harmed, it's when Jesus is asked about forgiveness, like how much should I forgive? 77 times 7, infinity, okay? You just keep forgiving others. And so forgiveness, processing grief and sadness is so critical to healing that channel of the body. The last one here, this is so critical. This is tied to your pancreas and your spleen. This is really your metabolism, your metabolic health, your blood sugar. If your blood sugar is off, up and down, those swings, your pancreas is aging too quickly. If you have fatigue after eating, that's a pancreas issue. Excess belly fat, you're storing a lot of fat right in that midsection. This is metabolic. The most healing nutrients for this is, in terms of foods, are going to be lots of cinnamon. Do pumpkin pie spice and Ceylon cinnamon in your food constantly. Lots of organic meat like grass-fed beef and wild salmon and chicken and turkey. Okay, so lots, high protein. High vegetables that are cooked, like steamed vegetables. Fruits, the best are going to be apples, pomegranates, and berries. So you don't want to go overboard, just one serving a day of that. And then some healthy fats, so a lower carb diet. You do some carbs, probably 100 grams a day or so, but not overboard. And then lots of cinnamon, herbs like bitter melon, squash is also good, like pumpkin and butternut squash, and a little bit of sweet potato as your main carb. And then from a supplement standpoint, take berberine and chromium and alpha lipoic acid and increase your fiber intake. I've helped so many people reverse type 2 diabetes. You can reverse any blood sugar issue by following this. And if you have diabetes, that organ is aged probably 20 years older than it should be at the very least. So if you reverse your diabetes, you might be reversing the age of your pancreas by 20 years or more. And you can do sometimes that in as little as 30 days. So really doing these things I'm talking about, and then also moving, walking around your meals, doing a little bit of weight training, incredible for healing your pancreas, and getting enough sleep. A lot of times these metabolic issues are tied to you have shame in your life, there's guilt, and there's lack of self-discipline. So building structure in your life of good daily habits is so critical for healing the pancreas as well. And so really going to the Bible and just spending time meditating on God's word is going to be very healing there for that metabolic system. Now, the last few things here, and this is really important, what you should do is you should get an organ age test to see how old are your organs, what are your deficiencies. By the way, this test is so easy. It's called a blood spot. So you get this little kit at home. You just do a little prick on your finger, have about 4 drops of blood go onto this little piece of cardboard. You put it back in this little plastic bag and you just mail it out, and you have your results a few weeks later. I think it's like 2 to 3 weeks later. And you have these biomarkers of so many things to be able to tell exactly where you're deficient and which organ you need to focus on healing the most. By the way, sometimes it surprises some people. They think, oh, I've got a thyroid issue. It's my thyroid, when in fact, it's more their hormonal system from their reproductive organs or even their immune system or their gut that's actually the bigger cause of their hypothyroid symptoms. So sometimes you actually want to do things fairly differently than maybe you thought, and these tests can help reveal that. So it's really, really powerful. And if not, do your best to just pay attention to the symptoms you have and start focusing on reversing the age of one specific organ. Now, I do want to mention, I think there's something that everyone can benefit from here as well. And by the way, most of those foods I talked about are incredibly healing for the whole body, but most of them do in particular help heal one organ system more than another. But one of my favorite foods for healing your cells, particularly your mitochondria, which is one of the most important areas of your cell for reversing aging, is there's a compound called ellagic acid, and it's found in the highest amounts in pomegranates. It's also found in raspberries, to a degree also pecans and walnuts, but very high levels in pomegranate. And it's this ellagic acid is turned into something in your body called urolithin A, urolithin B, C, D, and E. There's actually one company that sells urolithin A, and I think that's an okay product. But overall, it's even better, much better, if your body can start to create urolithin A, but all the other urolithins like urolithin B, C, D, and E as well. And it helps heal your mitochondria, causing something called mitophagy, where your body's able to better recycle and recreate new and healthy mitochondria. This is great for healing hypothyroidism or increasing testosterone levels or reversing aging in your body. Here's the problem. Only about 30 to 40% of people convert ellagic acid into urolithin A very well. And so there's some things you can do for this. Number one, just eat berries more regularly, especially pomegranates, raspberries, those two in particular, and then walnuts. So walnuts, pomegranates, raspberries, and then taking probiotics with those, doing coconut yogurt or some raw organic yogurt, and then also doing some green tea like matcha on a regular basis. So drink green tea, get pomegranates and berries, and get some probiotic-rich foods. This in the body will allow your body to get the right prebiotics and probiotics to then convert urolithin A over time, and that will then allow your cells to have this urolithin A so you can start to reverse the clock in your body. And again, green tea is so amazing for this as well because of all the polyphenols in there, so loads and loads of benefits there. So everyone can benefit from green tea in that way as well. Well, I just want to encourage you, you don't have to accept premature aging or say this is just how it is or I'm just getting older. You know, I ran into a friend of mine, Mark Sisson, in the gym who we've had on the podcast here. He lives in Franklin, Tennessee now. And the guy's in his 70s and he is still fit, super healthy. He's outside running, playing ultimate frisbee and running around with his great, amazing health in his 70s. My dad's the same. My dad is in his 70s with great health. And these things can help you be healthy into your 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond and reverse your organ age. It's amazing that your body has the capacity to heal when you do the right things, when you really focus on healing the organs itself. I want to say thanks so much for tuning in here to the Dr. Josh Axe Show. Remember, each and every week we're diving deep into the science and principles of how you can heal physically, mentally, and spiritually. Isn't it amazing that you can reverse your organ age? You can heal your body at the cellular level. There are so many people that don't know this. And by the way, the number one thing you can do to support the channel is subscribe to the show. You know, we'll just show up on your YouTube feed a little bit more, or you'll get the updates on a regular basis of these amazing people we're having on here in the future, which we've got some really, really incredible guests coming up and some new content coming out I think you're going to love. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you on the next episode.